Time for the market report. Looks like another turnaround in prices.
You know, Mike, that's been happening a lot here lately. Markets up one week and down the next, and we'll get into it. But first, the numbers. What were the week's biggest gains and losses? And then we speak with row crop economist Dr. Will Maples to get his thoughts on how the season's progressed so far. So, markets closed on the downswing, both livestock and row crops affected. Let's take a look. The week's biggest gain, lumber up $6, nearly a 1% increase from the previous week. The week's biggest loss, sugar, down about half a cent, more than a 3% decrease from the previous week. So we've been talking a good bit about the state of row crops here in the middle of summer, mostly on a national level. But how are things here in Mississippi? I spoke with Dr. Will Maples to get his thoughts on that and other producer issues.
So right now, still kind of the question is, all that rain we had early in the season with planting, is what's its impact going to be on final yields here in the state? Just from riding around, things look pretty good. I mean, you see some different stage soybeans out there in the Delta, so if they got it in early, and then all the rain delayed planting, got the late beans in. Usually those late beans don't do as well as the earlier planted stuff. So you'll drive around and see sporadic beans in different growth stages. Cotton right now, it's going to be kind of a toss-up because the rain just really hammered getting cotton planted on time, and now it's been so hot. You know, you just think about the past week here. We've went from all that rain to really not much at all here in the past couple weeks in some parts of the state, and just the humidity and the heat stress on the plants. So it's kind of a mixed bag across the state. But overall, corn's looking all right, soybeans are looking all right, and cotton's going to be an interesting one to kind of see where we end up at.
Yes, I'm glad you brought up driving around because, when I'm driving from place to place, I'm often taking a look at how the crops are looking off the side of the highway. And I must say, most of the soybean fields I see, even out in the more rural areas, are looking pretty good. And the corn's definitely looking good too.
I haven't gotten over in the Delta in about 3 weeks or so, but I'm going to be in Rolling Fork this Friday. It's always a good chance to go just see where things are at. Marketing is super important right now, so we're going to do some education on how do you build out marketing plans, what are some things you should look at, and along those lines to help producers.
Yeah, speaking of prices on that regard, so what is there one commodity or one row crop rather, that's just kind of gone a lot lower than we expected?
Cotton's still the one that it's just down and it's just bad still. But we've been talking about that for a past year now. We've not broke out of that 60-cent price range on cotton still, and the outlook's still just not there for anything more positive. Beans we knew were going to be a struggle. They're still a struggle. Corn's at least held up. Rice has held up pretty decent as well. We've come off the highs, but rice is still there in the near profitable range. At the national level right now, it's been almost an ideal growing season for corn, and there's not a story there right now around the corn supply. We're looking at probably one record corn yield if things hold as they are.
Well, let's get a little preview of what you're going to talk to those folks at Rolling Fork. So you were going to talk to them about grain marketing, and my guess is that there's some farmers there that probably still have corn and soybeans in the bin that are trying to sell it. Am I right?
Well, hopefully not. So that's one of our main points we're going to do. So we'll talk about pre-harvest marketing, which we're in July, so pre-harvest is kind of, at least we'll set them up for next year. But then we'll focus a lot on post-harvest marketing and how do you make those decisions? How do you decide to even store? How can you look at the futures market and see if it's offering you a carrying charge to even incentivize you to store that grain, or should you just go ahead and sell it at harvest? So helping make those kind of decisions, understand what your storage costs are, when you should sell, but also, as you mentioned, this unpriced grain still in some bins, is making sure you have some type of exit plan for that commodity. Because the longer it stays in a bin, that's just you got storage costs associated with that. If you let it sit in there past really July, you're not ever going to make any profit on those bushels.
And that's it for a deeper look into the markets. As Dr. Maples said, it seems crops looking good, save for cotton. We'll keep an eye on that and see if it turns around.